Hey, what's up, everybody? Happy Friday. Happy Saturday. What was the weekend now? I think. Yeah, I think Universal is the weekend, so congratulations on making it there. Welcome back. This is another episode on the Iron Man, episode 20. So, I'm talking right now. I haven't even recorded any of the footage yet. I'm just kind of talking. And this is kind of what this episode is, because this is like boring, you know? Especially if you've played the game for several years, or if you've played it before. This is just typical grinding, very heavy grinding. And not like fun grinding either. This is the type where we're repeatedly killing a specific mob that we targeted. So I'm just gonna talk to you all, you know, just like grab a coffee. We'll have like a coffee talk or something. Have a coffee, have a drink. Maybe have some grub in front of you, some chow, and kind of enable us to get to know each other better, right? Because I like talking to you all. I like our interactions. I enjoy them. So I guess just our little talk the topic I've chosen is, if there's any interest, like I don't know if it could even be classified as such, but I've been asked before about just like my career before this. And as you probably know, if you've watched since the beginning of the series, I resigned from my career position, my career, about a month ago. Actually, yeah, October the 6th was my last day. I got put on admin leave, so that's why I was making videos. Just out of courtesy, and all that. I was in the fire department. I'm a paramedic. Just right now, I'm only a medic in name. I've been a medic for 1 year, and before then, I worked as an EMT basic for around 2.5 years. And I can kind of go into why I chose the field itself. So I kind of had this crazy idea to be an EMT in the first place. Just kind of while I was kind of soul searching for careers, like what everyone goes through in your 20s, your mid-20s, early to mid-20s. I was living in California at the time, trying to apply my science degree, because I have a bachelor's of a BS in biology, minor in chemistry, and I was trying to go down research and just, you know, publishing and that sort of deal. The bureaucratic nightmare. Anyways, that didn't work out. I didn't like it anymore, so I just became an EMT basic. I enrolled in a program. I think it was around $2,000, so it was pretty cheap. Relatively short too. Like, it was 2 months, and in 2 months, you go to class. Anybody can be an EMT, and I mean that very seriously. Very seriously. If you're not stupid, anybody can be an EMT. Anybody can know to give, 10 to 12 breaths with your bag valve mask for an adult, or 4 to 6 times for a pediatric, right? Anybody can memorize that you need 0.4 of your nitro if it's in your protocol, or your 2.5 in your 0.5 of your Duoneb sort of medication dosages, or anything beyond that requires critical thought is at a higher level. You'd have to be an advanced, intermediate, which is being phased out, or a paramedic. Those are the certs where you have to critically think, because people are looking at you sometimes. Sometimes you are the highest, level of care on a given scene in the field. So I don't think it would take an extraordinary situation to have a basic be in that sort of responsibility and that sort of expectation to kind of work. Anyways, I got on a wild tangent there. So, okay, yeah, it's pretty easy to be an EMT. It's extremely easy. It's probably equivalent to a high school or a 2-credit college level course. Like, you don't need shit. If anything, experience is what's going to be more valuable than a classroom environment and what it teaches you, and also degree of self-motivation. Anyways, why I chose to be in it is Okay, so I used to run a few calls. Like, I ran a few couple fake 911 calls in DC. Like, I called them fake because we were basically, I was in a private company, AMR, and they were like kind of the branch in DC, and what their job is that DC Fire and EMS, DC FEMS, District of Columbia, if they have a call that is bullshit, like somebody has a toothache, somebody needs a ride to dialysis or something, there is a potentially an unstable person, and when they got there, they've realized that that they're actually kind of, stable, they're non-acute, something a basic could handle, they would call us, and we would go respond, lights and sirens, gets us all excited because we're all like stupid teenagers, like young kids, we're not at the level that, a fire department would want us, so we're very excited. We show up on these scenes and we treat them, we feel like real, like heroes, quote unquote. I hate that word, by the way. And just, I remember the adrenaline dump I got on the very first time I was riding lights and sirens, as an AIC, because I didn't know what to expect. I was still very, very, very inexperienced. I was kind of like fresh out of another company, a private company, which was purely inter-facility, IFT, inter-facility transports, which was completely kind of mind-numbing to me, especially as an EMT basic. If you're a paramedic and you do IFT or you're critical care, it might be a little more interesting. You might have to be more hands-on. You might have to critically think a little more down your differentials, and you have to maybe act sometimes. You have to intervene. But for a basic, if you have to intervene, you've done something wrong. You're going to get in some trouble. Because as a basic, a part of being a good basic is doing a good taking of your history taking your sample, your symptoms, allergies, medications, past medical history, last oral intake, events, your OPQRST, your onset, provocation, quality, radiation, severity, time, all that. If you do a good job of that, you should detect things before people start circling the drain. It's the very negligent and lazy EMTs that get in trouble. I've worked with a couple of them, and every time I have a partner who does this and doesn't listen to me, I would be extremely frustrated and just pissed off that this patient suffered because your job, you failed at it. You have to advocate for your patient at all times. What is in their best interest? And is it to just sit there and have a chat, or to do your fucking job and use your cert, your license? Anyways, that was extremely frustrating. So that's partially why I quit being I didn't want to be an EMT basic any longer. So that's the reason. And anything that you kind of can foresee, if you have any sort of brains between your shoulders, you need to request resources that you need early, because it takes time for them to reach you in the first place. And while you're waiting, things can change. So you need to request resources early if you're not at the highest cert level, or if your scope if you don't have the resources. A medic has maybe 10 times more medications in their repertoire, their scope, than a basic does. So request them early. And just to go off of it, I can talk about an experience that kind of changed me. Is I had a partner, he's brand new, fresh out of EMT school, he's a basic. I was also a basic at the time, but I was in my medic program then, so I was actively in that critical mindset, that critical thinking mindset. We had a patient, this IFT, should have been pretty routine. I looked at the guy, and he was hemorrhaging, kind of in the hospital, and just apply pressure. But my partner turned his back onto his laptop and just started charting. And I'm just like, bro, what the fuck? Like, I'm not he's the AIC. I'm supposed to support him. And I'm just like, okay, let's just try to put some pressure, stop the bleeding, because that's what the nurses were doing, the RNs and whatever. And I dress it, stop the bleeding, dress it, and I look at him, I'm like, bro, your patient was just like bleeding right now, right? I think he's hemorrhaging uncontrollably on his arm. And he's like, yeah, got it. And I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna lecture you. I'm not your wrangler. You're an adult. And then we load him up in our unit, our ambulance. I go to him. I'll say, hey, make sure you check the vitals before we leave. Make sure, let me know when everything's ready, and then we can start going to destination. I can start transport because I'm driving. And he's like, yep, got it, man, got it. And then, like about 10 minutes before we reach our destination, I hear my partner kind of call out to me. He's like, hey, man, stop. Our guy's kind of having trouble breathing. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, what's he stating at right now? I don't know. Okay, what's he breathing like? He's having trouble breathing. I'm like, okay. Do we hear wheezing, stridor? What are you seeing? He's like, I don't know. And I'm like, okay, what's his pressure at? I don't know. So I stop, I park, and I go in the back, and I'm just like, what the fuck? And then the guy, obviously, having some respiratory distress. He's kind of has imminent, respiratory. He's in failure right now. He's about to respiratory arrest. So I'm like, fuck. I hear a little bit of wheezing. He's still alert, so I put him on CPAP, and then that fixes it. And then we finish the call out, and then afterwards, like, I go to him in the front, and I'm like, dude, what did I just tell you? What the fuck did I say before we left? Take your vital signs. Get your baseline set of vital signs. You cannot go off of the hospital's numbers that they got who knows how long ago. An hour? 30 minutes? You cannot go off of those. They can change. Patients are dynamic. And I just ripped into him then. I could go into many other scenarios where my partner was negligent and lazy. So yeah, I'll continue on with the story right now. So yeah. But anyways, what was I saying? Adrenaline dump. Yeah. So I was very inexperienced, and it was very fun to me. And I did that for a little while, around a year, or close to it. And I thought, you know what? I'm bored of being an EMT basic. I want to become a paramedic because I want to actually do something in the field. And I want to be in a fire department. I want to be in a fire department, whichever one will take me. Any fire department that will take me. If I have the medic, I will work as hard as you want me to, or as is required. That's a bad way to phrase it. I'll do whatever it takes. I'll do the training. I'll do the tests. I'll do any sort of evaluation, and I should be able to pass. So for about a year, I was doing a paramedic program, and I could just honestly tell you that was the hardest thing I've done in my entire life. It was harder than 4 years of a STEM, undergraduate, like major specialization. It was harder than 4 years condensed into 1 year. It was like that was the equivalent. It was so impossibly challenging, but I made it through, and I was so proud. And I spent another year applying to fire departments all over the country, the United States, and it took me a little while. I can go more into experiences on what being a paramedic requires, because it's not like being a basic. That's a technical sort of trade, and it took me. It's what is it? I think the program I was in. It was advertised as 10 months. Most paramedic programs take 2 years. It's like equivalent to an associate's. So I went accelerated. I don't know why I chose to do that. I probably should have taken my time a little bit, but I was a little younger. I was kind of in a rush or felt like I was to get out there and start producing, contributing, and just working for the career I was going to be working in the rest of my life. I just wanted to get out there and do it. But in hindsight, some things, take a little more time, especially in my case, because I can be a little emotionally excitable at times, because my character is I'm a little bit more introverted at times, especially if I'm out of my comfort zone. I'll kind of retreat a little bit just to observe, and in situations where I don't really know what to do on the fly, I suppose it's difficult for me to calm my mind and think in a methodical kind of way, where you go to one box, and then go to another box if this happens, or it's like a flow chart. So it's hard for me to get in that sort of differential mindset in a very dynamic environment where things can change in literally 1 second. But yeah, anyways, it took me about a year. I had to do a CPAT, and that CPAT was so hard. It was so hard, and I worked so hard. I trained for around 3 months. Okay, so the CPAP, I'll go over everything you have to go through, your evolutions. So you put on a 50-pound weighted vest. And then for the first part is a Stairmaster. You have to climb on the Stairmaster at around 1 step per second. I think that's the rate per minute or whatever. And then they slap. It comes out to 75 pounds total. So I think it's 12.5 pounds per shoulder. And they slap those weight bags on each shoulder. And they tell you, walk, get up there. And if you grab the railing on the side of your Stairmaster more than once, if you grab it 2 times after they warned you, you are automatically disqualified. And this is like the candidate pool to just weed out the weak or the people who are not motivated to improve their physical conditioning. It was so hard. And then afterwards, okay, so you have then you have to do a hose line drag. So you grab, they have this hose all stacked up or coiled on the ground. You grab it up, and you have to run. Or you don't have to run, they don't make you run, but you should because there's a time limit. And then you run in this L shape, X amount of meters, I don't know, yards. And then you get on, you drop to one knee, grab your hose line, and you start pulling. Pull until the cuff, the connector, your female male connector piece goes over the line. And then you power walk, I should say, just power walk over to another part of the obstacle course. You have to get 2 chainsaws off of this kind of tool cabinet, and you have to put them on the ground. If they hear any sort of clanging while you put them on the ground, you're done. You've been disqualified. I think that's just to kind of ingrain in the candidate that these tools are high end. You know, you have to take care of your tools, because if you have a failure in the field, let's say you hit an actual structure fire, you're cutting roof, and your saw is not working anymore because you've thrown it around, that's on you. So I think that's what the reasoning was for that. It was a little frustrating, but I understood the reason. And then you pick them up, and then you walk, kind of like farmers carry them. You walk to the opposite end, and then you put them down or something, or do some kind of maneuver, and then you pick them up again, and then walk back, put them back on the shelf, and then you put up this ladder. I think it's a 100-foot ladder. So you go by each rung. You can't skip any rung, because if your tester sees you skip one, you're disqualified. So you put that up, get that up against the wall, and then you start pulling, extending, and then when you're extending the ladder to full 100 feet extension, the ladder cannot slip at all. The pulley system, you have to have such like a very firm grip on it, like you're wearing gloves, obviously. So you need to make sure it catches on like the meat of your palm, so that it doesn't slide when you're raising it, and then when you're lowering it, you have to make sure it doesn't slide either. I think that's a safety thing in nature as well. And then once you fully lowered it, you have to you walk over to this button, this plate, and then you have a sledgehammer, and you have to slam into it with your hammer. I think it's to simulate a door, like a breaching, forceful entry. And then you go bam, 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 until the alarm sounds. And I guess I was swinging with all of my might. It took me around, I think like 12 or 18 slams with the hammer to get it in or something for me. I'm a pretty small guy. I weigh around 160. I'm around 5'10", so it wasn't easy for me. And keep in mind, you're wearing 50 pounds, because after the Stairmaster, they take off the 25, and you're wearing 50 pounds this whole entire time. And then once the buzzer beeps, you have to go through this maze. It's a U-shaped maze that progressively gets more. So you have to crawl. You're on all fours crawling. It's pitch black in there. The ceiling gets lower and lower and lower and lower progressively, and it's very easy though. You're crawling, and I just have my hand outstretched in front of me on my right hand, and you just turn right twice, and at the very end you have to sort of go into an army crawl, and just get the army crawl done, and you come out the other end. Not too bad, but at this point, that's where I was always extremely gassed when I was doing training sessions. But yeah, I would every time I would do a simulation or a practice run on my own time. That's where I was extremely gassed every time. So most of my training was stamina. Anyways, the next part is the dummy drag. I think he weighs 175. Rescue Randy. You gotta pick him up correctly. He's got these two handles on his shoulders that are kind of like cloth, and you pick him up. Well, first I had to kind of pick him up by his neck, get him up to an upright sitting on the L-shaped sitting position on the ground, grab the handle, and then I would look at the ceiling and then just backpedal as fast as I could so that I would have less friction. So his feet were partially, like, barely on the ground, and I was just raising this 175-pound dummy up to like my neck, just backpedaling furiously, going around a barrel and then making it back over the line. His feet had to go over this tape, this black tape on the ground. And then after that, there was only one more thing. And the proctor guy, I remember, he was like, good. And then I dropped it. And then I sprinted over to the ceiling breach because I was so tired. I didn't have much more in me. And grabbed the pike. And then you have to push up with like 15 pounds of pressure 3 times. Pull down 3 times. It's like a metal ceiling plate with like handles you can latch onto with your pike. So boom, 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 boom. Do that 3 or 5 times. I forget the exact amount of reps you needed, and I finished it. And my time was 9 minutes and 20 seconds. So I finished with 1 minute to spare, and I was so proud of myself. That took me 3 months to train, to stamina train and strength train, and just have that consistency. And I thought about it every single day. Whatever, cool. I was so stoked. Then I went to go do the polygraph, which is basically a lie detector test, and that stressed me the fuck out. But I got through it because I'm an honest person. I think straightforward honesty in anybody is not a virtue. Like, you have to know when to say things. You can't just say everything that comes to mind on any given second. I don't think that's any way to go about life. Like, you have to kind of know your situation too and the field as a provider. You can't just blurt things out, even if they are factually true. You have to, know when to speak, when not to speak, when to be quiet, when to listen, when to speak. Yeah. But anyways, this was all very, very challenging. This is not unlike anything I've ever done before in my life. And after the polygraph, I had to go to a panel interview, which is basically a bunch of the fire department members of that department. They sit you down in a room and they ask you basically like an interview type question, like list your qualifications and how they would make you a good fit for this job position title. That was verbatim the question I got asked. My first question. I was like, so I got like my suit on. This is like, I have never worn a suit before for an interview. And then it was like this nice ass suit. I had like everything meticulously planned out. Like my tie was on straight. The tie clip was at the exact right place. My cuff. I was wearing the watch, my fancy watch, which didn't work anymore. And then I was like, when they asked me that question, I looked at the table and I was like, like this, like that, for literally 30 seconds, until one of the panel guys, who actually turned out to be, he was going to be my future sort of mentor, my brother. He's like, so I see you have a degree. What did you do? Tell us more about that. And then that kind of got the words flowing. Started talking a little bit, and then the rest of the panel went well. Thank God he asked me for that, because he was kind of looking out for me, I think. But yeah, when I was driving home, I was just crying because I worked so hard leading up to it, and I thought I blew it. I thought I blew it all. And then 2 weeks later, or 1.5 weeks later, I get a call from the admin specialist, the recruiter, or whoever was in charge of contacting me, saying, we want you to come back, and now we're going to do the chief's interview. which is kind of like a panel, except you're talking to the 2 deputy chiefs and the fire chief himself of the fire department. So these are basically the big brass. They're the big heads in charge of everything. It's a little intimidating, but I was so close, and I just kind of treated it like a panel, and just to walk in and be human, right? And we had a nice conversation. I think it ended well. And then at this chief's interview, I got the job offer. I signed my paperwork, and I was gonna start in around 2 weeks or a few days. Go through this 2-week kind of onboarding process, which I did. We didn't have a formal academy, which was a little bit regretful, because an academy would have beaten any sort of weakness out of me, or I would have quit. One or the other. There is no in between. This department I decided upon because I had others and lined up, but this one just so happened to get back to me first, and I went with this one despite there not being an academy. So yeah, did a bunch of training. I remember during training week, I'll never forget this. The EMS battalion chief had brought his wife and their son, and he had a 5-year. He had like 3 sons and a daughter. And so he brought one of the sons and the 5-year-old, and then I was kind of sitting in the ambulance bay because we were getting ready to run, simulations, differentials, like field simulations. They're like not real calls. They're just like for show, kind of. But you can make them as real or as fake as you want them to be. That's the beauty of it. And I was just kind of sitting in the ambulance bay. I was talking to our instructors, our trainers, and just kind of shooting the shit. And then all of a sudden I hear a help, help, help. It was like a female. And then I'm like, oh fuck, because we were actually just talking in our conversation about how we can have walk-ins. Like, this is not like this experiences I was used to. It's not like we can expect being sent out on a PSAP center or a dispatcher. Sometimes people can literally go up to a firehouse and yell out for help if they're in trouble. That's the environment we live in. It's very dynamic. That's the word there. It's always changing. Anything can happen at any given time. No matter how unlikely it is. So she's like, help! And I run out there. I'm like a rookie, brand new, and then I'm like saying, oh God, ma'am, what's wrong, ma'am? And then she goes like, my trunk. And at this time, I had no idea this was the battalion chief's wife. So she flips open the trunk, and then there's the kid, the 5-year-old, with fake blood, laying there completely like lethargic. And she was like, oh my God, my son, he was playing. I had my window open, and he fell out of the second-story window. So I was like, and then what happened? What did he land on? And then she said, oh, and then he fell onto the driveway. And I'm like, oh, fuck. And then the number one textbook thing is, if you have a kid should be crying. They should be moving a little bit. They should track your movement and look at you. But when I was looking at this kid, he was the battalion chief's son. I didn't know this. He was kind of pretending, trying to make it look realistic. And he was 5 and so young and understood the assignment. And just so impressive. What impressive parents to raise such a child. Anyways, the kid was completely flaccid, limp. I was trying to get any sort of response from this kid. And stuff is starting to move around quickly now because I was training with 2 other recruits. And then one of them was A, and then she immediately gives blow-by oxygen, and I'm just trying to think, fuck, we need to fly this kid out right now. He's probably got some posturing, he might have like a skull fracture. I need some more information. We need to move. And I was taking a little while because I had never seen anything like this. This is like the lowest acuity you could get. It was a kid. And I'm like, I don't know any of the centers we can fly out to. I'm like, where's the LZ? Where we get assigned the LZ at? Because we had a place called Shannon Airport. I knew now, but back then I didn't. So eventually I just fucking scooped the kid up. We tried to get him on the backboard. I'm like, fuck the backboard. This kid's gonna die. Time is on. Is of the essence. scoop him up on our hand, put him on the stretcher, try to stabilize his head as best we could with like blocks and stuff. But at this time, I'm like putting him on a capno. I'm trying to get IV access, which is, verbalized. And at this time, I kind of realized this was kind of fake. Which didn't make me try any like less hard, obviously, but get all our vital signs. I'm like, and I was confused because we can give TXA for any sort of suspected like hemorrhage that's going to need surgical intervention. And I thought TXA was contraindicated for young pediatrics like 5. I thought the age limit was 12. But apparently the flight medics, when we met up with them, they were saying, "Oh, you didn't give TXA? Why is that?" And I had to kind of explain myself. And it was more of like an educational moment. And I'll never, ever, ever forget that simulated call. That was so cool. And I knew right then that was just such a big motivator that if I see more things like this, I'm going to become a great paramedic. I need to train, and I need to teach myself. I need to spend and train time with my brothers on my own time and sisters. I need to read the textbook, and I'm so down for this. Oh, and also, I guess another thing to kind of chime in here is the very first simulated call I got of the day was with our OMD, our medical director, our Office of Medical Director. He's kind of in charge of all the scopes and practices, and he's like a doctor that writes the rules for how we practice in the field. So we ran him as a simulated patient, and he's like, "Oh, I've got chest pain for days now," which actually turned out to be legit. And I looked at the, and I was like, "Okay, have you taken any aspirin or nitro?" And he's like, "No." I'm like, "All right, so I'm going to give you, these 4 aspirins, these 4 baby aspirins, and we're going to do a 12 lead. We're going to do your vitals, and then if everything checks out, we'll give you your nitro. How's your chest pain? Describe it for us. Does it move anywhere? How'd you rate on a scale of 1 to 10? Do you have any previous, cardiac issues, high blood pressure, whatever?" And then I look at the 12 lead, and I'm like, "Holy shit, is this real?" I said that. I literally was like, "Is this real? Holy shit, is this real?" Because I saw ST elevation in like 2, 3 AVF, like V1, V2 or whatever, or so I thought I did. Because I was just fresh out of the medic program. I would have, on a test, I would have said that was ST elevation criteria. Because there was more than one small box. And then I'm looking at the guy and I'm like, "Dude, you might be having an MI right now. You could be having a heart attack right now. We need to go to the hospital." And this guy's like, "I'm an OMD, I'm a doctor. This is normal for me." Which is totally valid. Like, sometimes you can have a weird EKG, and that is just normal for the individual specifically. So I'm like, "Okay, all right, man. It's your right to refuse. You've answered all my questions. You're talking to me like I would anybody else. And this is your medical care, and you have the right. It's your right to decide." And I'm like, "All right." And then the battalion chief went up to him like, "Hey, man, let's go to the hospital." And the dude was still no. And unfortunately, 8 days later, he did pass. Something cardiac related, I think. Anyways, that's about it. That's all I got to really share for now. Like, we'll pick it up in Coffee Talk number 2 or something about why I quit the fire department. Anyways, this is all really fucked up for me. Like, that's why I'm making the videos in the first place, kind of, to take my mind away from it. It's a project for me. And just working my way through this, navigating what to do next. Thought about unaliving myself, but got through that silly idea very quickly. And just what I'm going to do for my job now. Like, am I going to go work in the hospital? Am I going to try again with the fire department? What do I do? Do I trust something else entirely? I just need to figure out how to navigate it all. And this project is kind of supposed to help me with that. Anyways, that wraps it up for this episode. Yeah, it's hard to maybe listen to a story that's completely unrelated to what you're seeing, but that's kind of better than no commentary or just blabbing or jabbering, right? So that's kind of it. Hope you enjoyed the talk. I would love to hear some back and forth from y'all, and I'll see you next time. Take care, everybody.